Hello and welcome to LinkedIn Live with me, Garth Sharif. I'm glad you could be here on this Tuesday, January 26th, January 30th. I've lost track of time because it's been a busy month and the days are flying by. I'm glad you could be here for this ambitious, short, uh, probably part of a series introduction to quantum computing, which has gathered more steam in terms of being in the news cycle along with artificial intelligence. And I wanted to tackle this because this is very interesting to me, quantum computing, mainly because of my history with science fiction. I've been a science fiction fan for those that followed me long live and prosper for a number of years since I was a young kid going to Star Trek conventions, meeting Star Trek actors, including John Delancey Q. And in that space of science fiction, there's these episodes, especially in Star Trek, with different realities. And then there were other shows that had the word quantum in it, like Quantum Leap with Scott Bakula. If you're a Quantum Leap fan, please let me know. Give me a like, send me a message, because that was a great, great show. So, as a science fiction buff, the word quantum is sometimes used in these episodes and films, and somewhat is part of Endgame with Avengers. So relatively recent contemporary films. And so there's this concept around what this is, but what is it? What is quantum computing? Why should we care? It is very, very, very difficult to explain quantum computing. It is easier to maybe talk about what it can do for us. Because ultimately, in long story short, it just exponentially increases the abilities for computers, algorithms, problem solving devices to solve problems, which is potentially really good for all kinds of uses, especially when we talk about artificial intelligence. And I mean exponentially. But that might not be enough. Like, how does it exponentially increase the ability for computers to solve problems more than what we already have? And so I'm going to try and tackle this in a very short LinkedIn Live and then add layers to this. I'm hoping to make this an on demand program. So we're going to get into this, but we're going to get into this my way or the highway because it's just the way I operate. Because I already mentioned some popular culture references as we talk about quantum computing, because it's interesting to go into those actually to break down why quantum computing is just a massive, massive level up to anything we know in modern computing. That includes supercomputers that are used for blockchain, your own laptop, your phone, anything that is used as an electronic device. Quantum computing is just a massive, massive leap up. So, how do we want to start this conversation? Do I want to explain what quantum physics is, quantum states are, superpositions, qubits? There's just it's tied to quantum physics. So it's Einstein. It's if you've seen Oppenheimer, there's a lot of those scientists are part of bringing the concept of quantum physics into the space where we have an area of science dedicated to it. But how does that relate to computing? So you could go into this in many different ways. I am not a quantum physicist. I also do not work directly in quantum computing, but I want to understand this on a broader term so we can understand as CPAs, lawyers, all those that are on LinkedIn, what this really means. So that's the way I'm going to look at it. My brother, in fact, though, did go to Harvard, did his PhD in a adjacent subject area to quantum physics. So I should maybe bring him on here as a guest. I haven't figured out exactly how to do the guest feature of Restream, but maybe one time I'll have him on there. But sometimes when I've had him on there, he's very smart, intelligent. He goes really quickly into the deep stuff, and I'm lost within like 30 seconds of our conversation. But we'll see if that might make a good interview. So, what do I got here? What do I have as a picture here? This is from Star Trek: The Next Generation, an episode called Parallels. And I told you I'm a Star Trek fan. Now, why am I talking about this when you came here to listen to quantum computing? Well, this is an episode in when Lieutenant Worf beams back up to the Enterprise and thinks he's on the Enterprise, goes to his dorm, his room on the Enterprise, and realizes something is different. He's actually in a relationship with Deanna Troy, which he wasn't in before, and he's in a different reality, and he doesn't understand what's happened. And the reality just keeps shifting and shifting, keeps going into different scenarios. And what they do in this episode, they actually break down quantum physics. They basically say that Lieutenant Worf is basically hopping between the infinite possibilities that exist within his life, and that he's just going in between them. Again, we've seen this in popular culture, sliding doors as an example, but in this case, he just keeps going through. The idea is that you potentially have infinite possibilities. Every choice that we make, we can make any of the choices. I could have chosen to do LinkedIn Live. I could have chosen not to do LinkedIn Live. I could have chosen to do some work, go for a walk. Like, there's multiple possibilities for every decision that we make. And in quantum physics, the idea is that we make all those choices. And the one that we experience is the one that we're living in. It doesn't mean the other ones didn't happen. So in this episode of Star Trek Next Generations, all those possibilities that Lieutenant Worf could have ever experienced sort of come together. And that's why you're seeing all these different enterprises. And anyway, we're going to get into these quantum states, superpositions. Then we'll tie it back into what it means for. I'm excited about this stuff. I love science fiction, and this is actually not science fiction. This is a reality. I'm going to recommend a show if you really want to get into quantum realities and some of the ways in which science fiction is using them. This is one of the best shows I've ever seen. Loved it. It's called Dark. It's a German show, and it is amazing. It just takes you on a ride that you have no idea where it's going. And I don't want to, I'm kind of giving it away. It had something to do with some quantum realities, but it does actually explain some things that are really good. Sometimes you can watch a popular culture show or a television show or podcast, and it's about one thing, but you're also learning about something else. So any show that you've watched or any podcast that you read about, different realities and timelines, you're also touching quantum physics. Now, in this show, Dark, they talk about Schrodinger's cat. You might have heard of this before, Schrodinger's cat. And this is a concept that's important in quantum physics that explains why quantum computing is so much more powerful than the computing that we have right now. It's just difficult to contain, which is why we don't have it. It's difficult to actually sort of hold and control. It's this power that it's hard to wrap our hands around it. And so this is a qubit as a artificial intelligence image, but let's get into Schrodinger's cat, if you've heard of this before. Okay, so this is a really interesting concept, and it explains a little bit. It's also quite a morbid way of looking at this idea that different states of reality can occur at the same time. But it is what it is. Schrodinger and Einstein got together and had this conversation, and Schrodinger flushed it out in more detail. Summatively, the concept is, in any state, you can have multiple possibilities, but because we can't see into those possibilities, it's hard to understand that they could exist. That's the concept of quantum physics. So Schrodinger posited an experiment. Didn't I don't think he actually did the experiment because it would be very sad, because it involves the death of a cat. And in this, the concept is, and this is the picture from Schrodinger's cat. You put a cat in a box. A cat in a box. This cat is in the box. And there's a flask of poison that is in the box with the cat. The cat will die once this flask falls or cracks open. There is a mechanism to release the poison inside the box that is going to be released through the decay of radioactive isotopes. The decay, as the isotopes decay, will cause, as you see in this picture, the little hammer to hit the flask and kill the cat. Now you might be saying, what does this have to do with quantum computing? Well, what's happening is, for the observer, we cannot see inside the box. The isotopes, as they're breaking down, is the sort of the metaphor for quantum realities. At any state, since we don't know if the cat is alive or not unless we reveal the box, the cat is both. To us, the cat is both alive and not alive. It's only when we open the box that we see if the poison's been released or not. And this is a concept called superposition. The concept that in in a in a moment, all these realities could be a possibility. The reality that we experience is the one that we see. And this is used as a metaphor, and again, somewhat of a morbid and terrible metaphor because this poor cat, which is again a theoretical cat, is being used to explain this idea of superpositions and quantum realities. So, what does this have to do with quantum computing? I really love this stuff. I think it's really cool. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Okay, I'm not here to explain this chart, but I will try to explain it with Schrodinger's cat. So the concept here is that if you have some sort of device that allows there to be multiple things that exist at once, then you have more than just two possibilities, right? Either yes or no, it happens or it doesn't. You have all these things that can happen that create another option for processing, another ability to quickly look at information. And this is again very, very like sort of high level layman's terms. A quantum physicist would be like, wait a minute, he's not using the terminology. I want us to get us started in this. And so in Schrodinger's cat, you have two possibilities. The cat is alive or dead, right? And that's the way we would look at it. Open the box, cat is dead, cat is alive. If you're coming into this LinkedIn Live halfway, you're going to be a little bit shocked about this cat that may have died or not, but it's Schrodinger's cat. Look it up. But in Schrodinger's cat, in the experiment where we don't know and both states exist at once, it creates this called superposition, another option that allows more possibilities to exist, which allows things to happen quicker in terms of decisions, options, alternatives, and the ability to process information. So a traditional computer uses binary code, right? Ones and zeros. Flips on ones and zeros extremely quickly now, and they're getting quicker and quicker. But it has to go through ones and zeros to go through an analysis, an algorithm, a problem solving, and it does it very quick in modern computing. But what if it could do those things all at the same time? It didn't have to turn on one and zero. It's just everything is happening all at once. The computer sees all the possibilities at once and selects the one that makes sense for us. That would accelerate the ability for programs, computers to solve information. The traditional computer chip works on ones and zeros. The qubit, which I always think about qbert, that's totally different from qubits. A qbert is a 1980s arcade character, as far as I know. No, I do know that. It creates, now this is the mathematical sort of equations, but it creates sort of the possibilities of all things. And that allows there to be a much, I mean, I can't even say how many muches. It's exponentially higher in terms of processing. And there's several experiments that kind of explain what this represents in terms of how fast something goes in terms of comparing modern computing to the computing that we have. And I'm trying to, just because there's so much information here, I just want to make sure I get this correct in terms of the um, the speed at which this can happen. Because basically, what we're saying, and there's a problem. Yeah, see, there's I have Caltech. I have some notes here. Caltech's Richard Feynman remarked that nobody understands quantum mechanics. So this is quantum mechanics that you're looking at here. And so it is hard to explain, but coming to the end of this, it is the idea that basically this can start solving problems that are very difficult to solve. It can also do things that we're currently doing a lot faster. And I'm trying to give you the metaphor. I had it in my notes here, but I had so many notes that I might have misplaced this particular note on. Yes, I found it. Kudos to me. I appreciate this. This is called Grover's algorithm, and it's a quantum search and algorithm. It's the idea that could you find in a phone book of 100 million names, um, in a phone book of 100 million, just 10,000 operations. So the concept is, can you take all this um, information that you have and find a particular type of information in a certain amount of moves. It's almost like chess. And current computing it can go very, very fast, but because it has to turn on ones and zeros, it's limited in terms of speed. It just cannot operate as fast as it can. So there's a limit, there's a speed limit to how fast a traditional computing ones and zeros bits of data can solve a problem. Now, it's pretty fast, but we wouldn't necessarily notice a difference. But when it comes to solving like problems in an exponential way, especially for artificial intelligence, for cryptography, for the human genome, for all kinds of things that we want there to be just a amazingly fast way of looking at all possibilities. This is definitely applicable in quantum physics because we're looking at unified field theories, things like that. But there's more practical applications. This can accelerate many things in which computers, maybe not to our point, but in the background, are a little bit slow. And the big one for us is that if quantum computing links to artificial intelligence, which I've talked about, which would exponentially increase the speed at which artificial intelligence is able to look at big data. And then you combine that with AGI, and we're in a whole different world of technology. Now, what are the challenges with quantum computing as I come to an end? This is just the first of many things I'll talk about with quantum computing. So hopefully this is, if you take away anything from this, watch Star Trek The Next Generation, Quantum Leap and Dark, especially Parallels with Lieutenant Worf, one of the best episodes. But this concept of multiple things happening at once really is the core. That's what they call superposition of quantum computing. The challenge: why don't we have quantum computing if it's the concept is explainable somewhat with Schrodinger's cat? Well, it takes a lot of a very specific physical environment to get a qubit, which does exist in a superposition like Schrodinger's cat, to actually function. Talking about absolute zero. You gotta bring these electrons down to a state of absolute zeros for it gets into like a lot of quantum physics, which I didn't want to get into. And so that's not as practical as our modern computing. Just works with like my laptop works with a little fan that's cooling down my computer. It's not sending my computer down to absolute zero, which is the lowest temperature you can get in the known universe. You have to have tremendous amount of technological abilities to do that. So what's the practicality? So there's that piece. The other piece in the quantum state, in the superposition, there's and this is where all these physicists have come together because they're using quantum physics to try to understand the known universe, solve problems. Wasn't necessarily attached to computing until the 80s. Is that there's a lack of stability in the quantum state. And that makes it hard sometimes to keep everything in the physical environment in the space that you need the qubit to work. And it sometimes doesn't allow the qubit to work in the way that we'd want to see all these options. That are sticking points, but they are beginning to be chipped away. All right, I think that's good. 20 minutes of quantum computing, and I'm exhausted. This is like a workout. I feel like I've been on a treadmill at max 10 speed. I'm exhausted, but that's fun. Part of technology with all the technological changes that are happening is that it's difficult to be an expert. Like that, as I mentioned, that professor said nobody really understands quantum physics, quantum mechanics. It's very difficult, even for the experts, to wrap their head around in the way that they can explain. And I'm not here to be an expert. I'm here to just understand what is this going to be used for, and how can I understand this on a bigger picture level, so I can at least have access to understanding how it works. And that's what I like to do when it comes to professional development, professional education, is take these sort of bigger concepts and break it down. Anyway, hopefully you found this interesting. I'm going to talk more about this. Maybe I'll do another part 2, or maybe I'll do another one of these and refine the way I get into it. But thank you for watching. I believe we'll have another LinkedIn Live next week because I'm on a roll. And maybe it'll be about quantum computing. Maybe it'll be about artificial intelligence. Maybe it'll be about the Pascal Siakam trade, which I'm still not over. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next week, take care.